Wow, we're a week off of not just the Nintendo Switch 2, but a brand new Mario Kart game. The first one in 11 years. I guess if you count Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, it's been 8, which is still just a long, long time. And I could not be more excited about this game. It looks absolutely phenomenal. It just looks so ambitious. They've changed the core of the series. You know, it's not just Mario Kart 9. This is Mario Kart World. It is ambitious and it's exciting. And my favourite part when it comes to any Mario Kart game is always the new tracks. There's nothing quite like a brand new original idea for a track in a Mario Kart game. They always nail it. They always nail the theming and how they fit with a certain character, how they kind of play on real world stuff, or sometimes how they exaggerate real world stuff. You know, that you got a big, you ride around a toilet, like a bathroom, but you're like really small. It's just like there's so much creativity when it comes to Mario Kart tracks. And obviously we do know all the tracks that we're going to be getting in Mario Kart World's base game, but you know, I don't believe that there's a chance that they just abandon this game after it comes out. They want this to be their evergreen title. I think they're going to want to support this, and so of course I think they will add new tracks, not just retro tracks. I think they will add brand new original idea tracks in DLC over the course of the life of this game. And you know how they do this, that's the different video, it's a different topic, but it is quite interesting to see how they do this, because obviously when they make new tracks in Mario Kart World for DLC, they're going to have to incorporate it into the way that the game works. These aren't just tracks in a vacuum, these are like real areas in this seamless open world. And so with this new continent, hypothetically, with a bunch of brand new tracks, it gave me kind of a few ideas on tracks, but I've kind of thought about them geographically. I have a few track ideas that kind of, I think, correspond with each other, that they could be in a similar area of the map, hypothetically, in this scenario. So if you have any ideas for tracks that I don't cover today, I would love to hear them in the comment section below. I really want to start building a community, and I love hearing people's ideas. But if you haven't subscribed yet, I'd really appreciate if you did. I want to keep this channel going. It's been a little bit longer than average, I guess, because I've been finishing up uni, but I've finished now and I'm back on the grind. So I really want to start growing, and so I really would appreciate if you would subscribe. And I think a comment and a like would really go a long way to getting this video to as many eyes as possible. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into some tracks in Mario Kart World I'd love them to add in DLC. One of the most, I think I'd say, untapped potentials of Mario Kart has always been Donkey Kong. I am a big Donkey Kong fan. I think that out of the past 4 videos I've had, I think 3 of them have been Donkey Kong related. I am utterly obsessed with Donkey Kong, and the new game Donkey Kong Bonanza is extremely exciting. But it got me thinking, like, this is the resurgence of Donkey Kong now. Donkey Kong is becoming, I think, a huge deal for Nintendo. I mean, he already technically was, but now I think he's going to soar to brand new heights. And so what better way to celebrate this than to actually incorporate Donkey Kong tracks into an open world? And by this I don't mean DK Mountain or DK Pass or DK Jungle. These tracks, they're good, but they are very generic. They kind of just take the jungle idea, or they just slap DK on a name for a mountain or a skiing resort, which doesn't really make much sense, but you can add the theming. No, you look at a track like Yoshi's Island in the Booster Course Pass, and that is an incredible crossover track. It just brings the vibe and just the gameplay elements of Yoshi's Island into Mario Kart, and I think you can do this for several different types of levels in Donkey Kong Country. For example, the first one that I thought of was a bramble level, like a bramble blast level. Now, how this would actually work is it's not fully certain. I'm thinking about the aesthetic. I love the aesthetic of those levels where it's just kind of like you're up in the sky with these brambles. You got the bees up there as well. Obviously, I think if you have that, maybe it would be a mostly airborne level. And I don't know how that would actually work in Mario Kart. So maybe they can make the brambles themselves like rails that you can grind on a wall jump between, and maybe you can even go into DK barrels. And I think it could be really interesting actually as a little twist on an average Mario Kart track, where for most of it you are actually airborne, because obviously they've changed the parachutes to like become like full of like a plane that you're flying. So having levels where you are trying to maintain your airborne quality, I suppose, would be very unique and very interesting. Keeping in line with that, I think that a honeycomb level, like in the beehive, would be really interesting and just a great aesthetic that we haven't seen in Mario Kart. But I think it just would fit very well. You can again, you can use the honey, the sticky honey. Could be a wall riding element, I suppose. And yeah, I just think the aesthetic of it could be really cool. But my favorite idea when it comes to Donkey Kong Country levels in Mario Kart is this kind of idea of like a Kremlin Cove. And obviously I'm a huge K. Rool fan, a huge Kremlin fan, so of course I'm going to shoehorn my goat in. But I was thinking, obviously the iconic main final boss of the original Donkey Kong Country being on the Gangplank Galleon, why not have a pirate ship level that is based on K. Rool has the Gangplank Galleon? But better yet, what if the Gangplank Galleon is stationary in a grotto, like a cove, like a pirate's cove? And the only issue with this now is that I think Wario Shipyard might fill this role in the main game's kind of, in the aesthetic department. Obviously Wario Shipyard is haunted, but maybe that would kind of deter them from this. But I think you can differentiate it aesthetically. I think it would be a really cool idea to have a pirate cove that has elements of the Gangplank Galleon. And I think that would just fit even better in the open world idea for Mario Kart World, even better than just the normal level based Mario Karts would be. Obviously, in addition, you have the minecart levels. Why has Donkey Kong never really had a minecart related or a mine shaft related levels? Obviously, we've had Wario and his gold mine, but Donkey Kong literally has iconic minecart levels as part of his whole identity. So why don't you have Life in the Mines as a Mario Kart course? These could all be around each other, but that's kind of maybe I should cut that down on the Donkey Kong tracks here because it is Mario Kart and not Donkey Kong Kart. So maybe they could save these for Diddy Kong Racing 2 or something like that. But there's so much infinite potential that you can take from the Donkey Kong Country series and kind of adapt it into the mainline Mario series. Now that Pauline is a mainstay of Mario in general now, she has become one of the main cast members and she's quite popular, and obviously she is clearly showing up in Donkey Kong Bonanza to some extent. So, what should they do for her first level? Give her a track to herself. And I think the obvious answer there is a New Donk City level or a New Donk City Festival level, and these would be really cool. The only issue with these is I think they might be a little bit derivative of the DK Spaceport kind of taking the original Donkey Kong barrels idea, and then obviously they're just being Crown City. So you don't need that many generic city levels. I think people have been citied out, so to speak, with Mario Tour. So what can you do for Pauline that feels natural for her character and feels unique and isn't just a copy of a place from the game? And the first thing that comes to mind is, why don't we have a concert level, a Pauline concert level? She is on tour in maybe even in New Donk City. I don't know. Just she's on tour in this massive stadium level, and you know, when you're driving around it, she's just in the middle there singing away, doing her jump up superstar and break free. That's the name of the song, right? So there's a lot of potential there. You know, you have beyond just the actual stage itself and the bottom, the standing area, you also have the seatings, which obviously you can jump up now, you can wall ride, so that would be really interesting. But then you also have the concessions, you also have behind the stage. There's a lot of potential there for a concert stadium based level, and I think that it makes so much sense for Pauline. Her whole identity is singing at this point, so why not? One element of Mario Kart World that has been, you know, quite heavily focused on at the moment is Yoshi's food chain. Like, he has a fast food chain. Yeah, literally a fast food chain, that dash food, that's what they call it. And you know, Yoshi, he owns that. You know, he is Yoshi's dash food, and he's a symbol of that. He's a symbol of the food, and the food in general is just a huge element of this game. And so it comes to mind. It's like, well, how can you do all that and not have a Yoshi's restaurant level? But maybe it's like not even dash food. Maybe he owns another chain, and it's like, you know, not even a chain, but he owns another restaurant, but it's actually like a Michelin star restaurant. So it's a really fancy restaurant, and you know, I mean, this has so much potential for a stage, because you have the duality of like the main area, which is like this very fancy place. You have the Toads with like their like monocles, like maybe Toadsworth is they just having their steak. But then you go into the kitchen, and it's just like an absolute disaster. It's just so chaotic. There's fire everywhere. There's just so much chaos in this Michelin star restaurant. It's just, and then you can maybe even go outside, and it has like a Paris aesthetic. I suppose you could set it into like a Paris like aesthetic. So honestly, I just think that Yoshi owning a fine dining restaurant and just having the duality of chaotic kitchen and very peaceful and very calm food critics eating the food, outside reviewing the food, it fits with what has been established with the game already, and I think it'd just be a really cool level idea. It's been a while since we've seen a Luigi's Mansion track. Obviously, Luigi's Mansion from Mario Kart DS, I think it was brought back in Mario Kart 7. And since then, I think we got a Haunted Mansion in Mario Kart 8. It was very generically themed. It's not the best track in the game. But, you know, Luigi's Mansion has since taken off quite a lot. And so I think maybe it's time for a new rendition of Luigi's Mansion. But here's the thing. The most recent Luigi's Mansion was actually set in a haunted hotel. Now, I'm not saying that they should take the same hotel from Luigi's Mansion 3 and make it into a track, but maybe take the idea of a haunted hotel and make it into Luigi's track. But, you know, instead of being inspired by Luigi's Mansion 3, how about being inspired by the iconic Outlook Hotel in The Shining? This is just ripe for potential. There's so many set pieces. You can have so many references to The Shining with the two twins, the drowning of blood. Obviously, you wouldn't have it as blood in this because it is a Mario game, but there's so much potential, and it could be like this extravagant hotel in the mountains. You could even harken back to the carpet design. Obviously, one of the most iconic shots in not Luigi's Mansion 3, sorry. One of the most iconic shots in The Shining is actually the obviously Danny riding on a little tricycle. You could even reference that in the reveal of this. I think there's just a lot of potential there for a haunted overlook hotel. That could be really, really interesting and really exciting, and a unique take on a Luigi track, because I'm assuming he'd be the owner. You could even have him in the little picture. They could have a little, I don't know, I think we're going a little bit too extreme into the inspiration from The Shining, but I just think that there's a lot of potential. I mean, you even have the maze at the end. You could even have like a maze. It's just, more tracks should just be overt references to Stanley Kubrick movies, in my opinion. Of course, Bowser is always going to have his castle levels in Mario Kart, and they're good. They're always fun. But I think Bowser deserves to have a unique track that isn't just a castle, because obviously he has now had one, Neo Bowser City. That is the closest he's got to a track that isn't a castle, and I love the idea of just expanding more into Bowser's other endeavors other than his castles. And so here's my thought. I think that there's a lot of potential for a theme park level, like a roller coaster level, like a thrill ride level, and you could set it. You could make it Bowser's actual theme park. He's themed it around all his enemies. You have like a Goomba coaster or something like that. But in addition, I think that obviously 3D World had a lot of kind of amusement, but it had the aesthetic, the jazzy aesthetic, especially in the final level, really lends itself to a theme park. I think it could just be really, really cool. The only issue is that they don't have anti-gravity in this game, so maybe it wouldn't be able to reach the potential of this track in Mario Kart 8. But I mean, you have many things like rail grinding and wall riding. I think that they're probably willing to break gravity, I suppose, even if they don't have anti-gravity. Obviously, in Mario Kart DS, there was a loop-de-loop in the actual Rainbow Road that was defying the actual gravity of that game. So I just think a theme park level has so much potential in general. I think theming it to Bowser just makes so much sense to me. I think he's the kind of guy that would own a theme park, and you could even have a recreation of Peach's castle in the middle. He's really, really trying still so hard to win over Peach. She would maybe having that castle in the middle will hopefully lure her to his theme park. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of potential there for a Bowser theme park. I really, really would like to see that. Of course, some of the most famous levels in Mario Kart history, I say some of the most. Probably I'm talking about one track. Waluigi Pinball is a very iconic track, and it's a beloved track. And I think Waluigi. I think people just love the idea of new Waluigi tracks in general, because he's lovable. He's weird. He's lovable. He's just an odd fella. But Waluigi Pinball is such a great concept for a track. And so here's the thing. Who's to say that Waluigi only has a pinball machine? Maybe they can intertwine Waluigi's new track in this game with Wario's new track in this game as well. And there could be a Vegas-inspired area, like Diamond City. Maybe not actually Diamond City, but they reference Super Mario Land and Sarasa Land in this game, so why not kind of overtly say Diamond City, but kind of a Vegas / Diamond City kind of mix city where Wario and Waluigi both get a new track. And the Waluigi idea is, what if he has a casino? I mean, this makes so much sense. Obviously, I mean, if he has a pinball machine, it fits so much with his aesthetic, and especially if you're inspiring it from the Vegas strip. There's just so much. They're so big and so expansive. It's a no-brainer. Honestly, it's a no-brainer to be able to race through that. And if they want to bring back Waluigi Pinball, they could even find in-universe explanation for how they shrink down into a pinball machine, maybe from the actual casino. I just think there's a lot of potential there for a casino track, and it's surprising that they haven't done one already. It's just such a famous aesthetic that they just haven't tapped. As for Wario himself, there's plenty of different ideas you can do for Wario, but I think maybe the best one that comes to mind is a bank itself. Maybe Wario either owns a bank, but I was thinking maybe they could make it that he doesn't own the bank, but you're like almost robbing the bank with him. well, you're not robbing it with him, but you're maybe in the middle of like a bank siege, and so it's like a very cinematic race, I suppose. Which, you know, that sounds weird for a Mario Kart game, but obviously, you know, in DK Spaceport you have a big robotic DK kind of just throwing these barrels down. So there's more dynamic track elements, and I think it'd be just so funny and so cool if you could just like you're like racing, you know, in this bank while Waluigi and Mario are like robbing it. You know, I just think that there's a lot of potential there for a track. It could be so dynamic, and maybe it would be one of those three like single lap well, not single laps, but like where they have 3 different laps. I think this would fit into this Vegas Diamond City area quite well, and I think it would fit Wario's entire thing really, really well as well. And at bank level, it just has so much potential in general. So it's a match made in heaven. I am so excited about Boo Cinema. I've been waiting so long for a film-related track of any magnitude, and it just looks great. I mean, I haven't seen the full thing because I want to like preserve that almost, but I've seen the film reel racing part in the trailer, and it's incredible. And you know, I'm not going to complain. If that's the only film-rated track we ever get, then that's fine. But I am greedy. I'm a greedy man, and I've always had this idea of like a Hollywood film set level. And I think what better character to theme that around than Lakitu, right? Because Lakitu's never got a level, but he is a mainstay, and he's a Mario Kart specific mainstay as well. But just the series in general, I think he deserves his own track. And you know, he's specifically known for 2 things. Obviously being the guy to fish you out when you're falling off the track and counting you down, observing the race, but he's also the photographer, and that's his whole thing in Mario 64. He controls the camera. So what better way to incorporate that into a track than him be the studio head, or he owns a film studio, or he's a film director as well. And so you kind of race around a bunch of like a film lot. So you have several different types of films being filmed at the same time. You go into these different green screen rooms, and you know, because it's Mario Kart, maybe these green screens will actually activate for you, and so you can go into a little sci-fi set. You see a sci-fi thing, you can see a little action thing, a zombie thing. There's just so many different like genres of movies that you could fit into like little parts of this track, and you could just have like the Hollywood sign. You could have the Hollywood sign in the distance that you can obviously ride to since it's open world. I just want a film set, a Hollywood film set track, and I think Lakitu is the perfect theming for that. My last idea was one of my favorite ideas, and I'm surprised honestly that Kamek is no longer a playable character. He's been demoted to an item, but despite that, I always had this idea for him to be the main theming of a track. I didn't know if it was Magic Cooper or Kamek. I called it Kamek. And the idea is like a science lab, right? So obviously Kamek Magic Cooper is they have magic powers. And I think maybe if they don't want to go for the Kamek theme, you can do this, you can call this like Wonder Labs, like, because you have the Wonder Flower thing. It has the same effect. Essentially, the track would be like a science lab, but you'd be like experimented on as you go. So the idea was that Kamek would kind of dynamically change you like in size, in like properties and stuff like that. So it would work with the Wonder Flower as well. But there's just maybe there could be like a little like an eco shelter. There's a lot of potential there. I think for such a dynamic track, I think it also fits very well with Mario Kart World's design philosophy. And so Kamek is an item in this game, but I don't necessarily think that would stop him from having a track for his namesake, you know, in theme. So it's one of the oldest ideas I've had for a track in Mario Kart, and I think if you really play with that dynamic element where you kind of just like don't know what size you're going to be, and you don't know like what properties are going to be put upon you in this track, it could be really, really fun and really, really interesting. I think Kamek is the best fit for it. Anyway, that is all my ideas I have for now. I mean, I have plenty other ideas, but I don't want to be here all day. It's already a long video. So, I hope you enjoyed my ideas for these tracks. I can't wait for this game. I really, really can't wait. And if none of these happen, I'm fine with the track selection we have. But it's just I'm quite a big fan. You know, I'm biased, but I'm quite a big fan of all my ideas. So I hope you enjoyed them. And again, I would love to hear from you guys. What kind of ideas that you have? Do you want maybe to add anything to that I suggested? You know, is there anything that I missed maybe in terms of the ideas I had? But yeah, with that out of the way, that's been this video, and I hope that you enjoy it, and I will see you probably sooner than the gap between the last episode and this one. So yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.